Okay, does anyone want to tell us what's happening in Mirror?
So in mirror, reading mirror, I think that we are reading from the mirror point of view, where the mirror explain about a woman who, yeah, the mirror has gradually become a part of her life. And we can see that the lady is dissatisfied with with her reflection because over time she's seen that she's getting old and she doesn't like it.
And she just wants to be the young girl, but she's now old and she can't do anything about that, and she hates the mirror because of that.
Sir, some persons are typing in the chat.
Yes, I'm looking at the chat. So as I keep saying, even while we're discussing verbally, take a look at the chat so we can, acknowledge these comments as well. We see, I guess the poem is talking from the point of view of the mirror, where it speaks about a woman who looks at herself but hates it after she gets older. And Josh says the mirror deals with the difficulty of accepting reality. That is one of the main things in this poem, accepting reality. And we see that the woman just cannot accept that she's getting older, her face is changing, and that is her problem. All right, let's look a little more deeply at stanza 1, and then we look at stanza 2. So I am silver and exact, I have no preconceptions. So right away we have this description of the mirror saying that what you see is what you get. I'm not going to tell any lies. I don't have any opinions. I just show you what is there. Whatever I see, I swallow. I'm reading the poem going down. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately. So the mirror, of course, is personified throughout the poem. The mirror just absorbs whatever is in front of it. And at line 3, just as it is, unmisted by love or dislike. So the mirror doesn't like you, it doesn't dislike you. It has no emotions toward you. It just shows you what's happening. If you're ugly and you look in front of a mirror, you're going to see an ugly face. If you're cute and you look in front of a mirror, you're going to see a cute face. The mirror doesn't try to make anyone look ugly or look pretty. I am not cruel, only truthful. The eye of a little god, four-cornered. All right, could someone comment and tell me why the mirror is said to be the eye of a little god? What do we mean by the eye of a little god? That's a strange description. Yes, Kevi, come in.
So it describes itself as the eye of a little god because gods are stereotypically supposed to be fair and just, and they're not supposed to have biased views. It's just going to show you what there is and nothing more, nothing less. You can't ask it to show you something. You can't persuade it. It's just going to show you what it has to show. It's just going to show you what is there and nothing more.
All right, pretty good. And as Wilton says in the chat, God see who you are and not what you want others to see. You can't trick God into seeing something that isn't there. And Devon says in the chat, it sees everything you put before it. All right, Eve, see your hand.
So, sir, in the poem Mirror, right? I believe that this poem is like it's written from the mirror's perspective. It's basically saying that it watched her grow up from this innocent little girl into this woman growing to dislike herself. And if it could, it would, but it can't be biased. It only can reflect what is being shown in front of it. Because, for example, the mirror says that it just sits there looking at the pink wall. I'm pretty sure it would rather reflect something else, but it cannot choose what it sees. It cannot choose what it reflects. It just reflects the image or the person that is in front of it. Yeah. Similar to the water, because the water reflects. It cannot show you something that isn't there. And though the mirror would like to help her to boost up her confidence because it realized that she has grown insecure and miserable about how she looks, it cannot help what it shows because it's the mirror nature to reflect.
Just like that. And in the chat, I hope you guys are paying attention to the chat. By the way, as I send you the recording at the end, you can also download the actual chat of the meeting. So if you want to take notes, you will have so much notes that you can choose from. We see here the mention of being the eye of a little God ties into the idea of an unyielding truthfulness, as the concept of God is associated with an impartial judgment of subjects. I think Jade was saying the same thing, and Shannon coming with the same thing here. It suggests the mirror's all-knowing nature. All right, let's not talk about the eye of a little God anymore. That's clear. Tessa and then Shakira, you can come in.
Okay, yeah, well, actually, I did want to make a comment about the eye of the little god. I accept and I am in total agreement with all what I saw in the chat, and because I do accept the little god as omnipresent, all knowing, all seeing, and truth, but also the power. And for me, I'm just getting a sense this mirror is not just a little innocent mirror. I'm just seeing a little arrogance here in the mirror, that it's in control. It holds the ladies or the woman's um her life in its hands, because it knows the power it has. It knows how much she needs him or it. So for me, I've always seen the mirror as a little arrogant, to be honest, in terms of the power that it yields, and the fact that it knows that, and what impact it can have because of people's obsession with beauty and outer beauty, that it knows the power that it holds. So I've always seen it in that sense, and in keeping with the whole personification of it, I really see it as a little arrogant little thing that believes it's in total control and domination over people's lives.
All right, and as Tessa says that, I think Shakira should come in, but just before Shakira, Tessa makes a very valid point. The mirror in stanza 1, it suggests that I'm nothing great. I'm just a little mirror showing you what it is. But in another sense, the mirror is quite conceited. It calls itself the eye of a little god, a god, However, we say little. So in this kind of oxymoron, the mirror is trying to be on the fence. I am just a little square thing, but at the same time, I am all seeing almost. And when you look at the mirror's perspective and the mirror's own mindset, it looks like it's just this neutral, feelingless, emotionless thing. But we see some deviations from that. Look at the second to last line in stanza 1. I think it is part of my heart. So the mirror has a heart. The mirror has emotions. It has feelings. The mirror becomes attached to something. And we see in the second stanza, the mirror has opinions, even though it claims I don't have any opinions. She turns to those liars. The mirror has opinions. The mirror doesn't like the candles or the moon. We'll soon get into what those things represent.
I was going to comment on the same line that I have let's God for clarity, but basically what I was going to say is already said in the chat and by Mrs. Tessa.
No problem. So we'll see what's happening. I think stanza 1 should be pretty clear. In stanza 2, no, I am a lake. My big question to you guys, and I had this question when I was just reading the poem, maybe some months ago. Does the mirror actually become a lake? Is this a real lake, or is this the mirror seeing itself in a lake-like sense? Can we comment on that?
Sir, it's not actually a lake. It's supposed to represent the fact that the mirror has become reflective and deep like that of a lake, but it's not actually like a lake.
I think that it could be interpreted in both ways, that the mirror either has become the lake so that the woman could search it for who she really is inside, which is obviously deeper than her appearance or what people see at face value. But it could also, I guess, be perceived that she has actually gone to a lake, and especially to reference to things like the candles or the moon, which I guess would be like out, not the candles and the moon, but the moon specifically, which would be outdoors. That moonlight could be reflected on a lake surface, and the comment or the relating it back to the fish as well could be interpreted as a lake as well.
Shakira and Permina, keep your hands up. But just before you speak, let me just point out something that some of us might not be paying attention to. In this line here, 1, 2, 3, 4, line 5 of stanza 1, the mirror is not a little god. The mirror is just the eye of a little god. It didn't say that I'm a little god. No, I am not the little god. I am just the eye of that little god. I am a vessel or a device of the little god. So the little god is not the mirror. That's a tricky line. So we can imagine that the mirror is one way in which the little god sees. But maybe the woman now moves to a literal lake. Maybe she goes by the lake. And this same God that uses the mirror to see now uses the lake to see. So let's step back from the mirror. Maybe the mirror is not this big, well, not big, this little God, but the mirror is only the eye of the God. The mirror is only a means through which the God can interact with humans. But then we see that the God can also possess a lake. So what is the God itself?
Sir, well, I have 2 points now, thanks to you. Okay, when you say God, we can it probably isn't related, and the poet probably didn't have this in mind at all. But in Greek mythology, there is a figure called Narcissus who is known for constantly peering at his own reflection. So we could say eye of little god, and it could be the poet making a small connection between the woman and Narcissus, because they're both constantly looking at themselves and comparing themselves in their reflection.
Actually, it's not a small connection at all. If you see my analysis video, I mentioned that allusion because at the end, the woman kind of meets a similar fate. Wherein, all right, you know what? Let's not talk too much about that. Read up on your mythology. I'll leave something in the chat, and you can look at it.
Sir, I'm wondering if you think like the lake is a form of water imagery, like the woman crying.
Oh, whoa. Let's stick a pin right there. Let's stick a big pin. We'll get back to that because that's a serious question. But let's go back to the eye of a little god for now. So the mirror is the eye of a god.
Okay, hold on.
Tessa?
I go ahead with the second stanza, first and 2 lines.
All
now
right.
I'm a lake, or you want to wrap up the first stanza?
Yes, I want to wrap up the first this question, and then we'll jump to what Ashley just mentioned. So the eye of a little god. I think the god itself isn't the mirror or the lake, but the god is reflection itself. This idea of seeing oneself, this idea of seeing truth. So the mirror is one way in which you can see truth. When we go to stanza 2, the lake is another way in which we can see truth. So this god of reflection might have many eyes. The poem only talks about 2 of its eyes, the mirror and the lake. And the difference between the mirror and the lake is like an evolution, a level up to the mirror. The mirror is 2-dimensional, it's small, it's flat, it's confined, and it's not very interesting. You go to the lake is 3-dimensional, it has depth. You can actually search a lake, you can dive under a lake, you can drown in a lake. There might be things under the lake. So the woman moved on from just looking at the mirror as something to see her physical appearance. As she goes to the lake, she's trying to find her inner self in this lake. So she's not just looking at her face, she's trying to discover, who am I really? But the problem is, how can you look into a lake to see your inner self? Because all you will see is a face. So the problem with this woman is that she is still focusing on her physical appearance as a means to see her true self, but we can't see our true self in our reflection, because our true self goes deeper than just our skin. All right, Tessa, you want to go to the first 2 lines of stanza 2?
Yeah, and actually what you explained, that's what I was going to say about
Really?
the depth of the lake, because there's a clear transition now from the mirror to the lake, and it has to do with what else is there to look at in her beyond the outer. So for me, it's always been about now she is, you get older and you're cognizant of the age, and you're trying to see what else is about you that's worthy, because it's clear the age is taken you, so the beauty is fading. But if you spend so much time focusing on the outer and not developing the inner, at this stage, she's really flustered now because the beauty is gone and there's no inner. She has not spent time developing that. So that to me is what I see, and you basically explained very beautifully. And that is one of the, and I must commend you, because this poem, I think many times the focus is on the first stanza, maybe because it's more accessible in terms of being able to be understood. But the whole notion of the lake, what now? What does that lake mean, and how do we move now to that inner beauty that she is looking for, that inner self? The reality of that is sometimes not always emphasized. So some students, I find, they just seem to think it's just about, well, the aging and she doesn't like herself. But it's not just that. It's about, for me, not just that she's aging and she's dissatisfied with the beauty outside, but she has now aged and she is not internally satisfied as well. So it's at this stage she's it's hopeless, you know. And also, I don't know, well, based on the lady's background and the suicide, I don't know, I always conjure up images of someone committing suicide with the drowned in a lake,
And
drowned.
mm,
But I guess
for
we can come to that later.
yeah, for those who are not
Yeah.
aware, Tessa is referring to Sylvia Plath, the poet. She actually committed suicide. Um, be careful about how you talk about the poet, because the focus is on the poem when you're in the exam. But knowing about the poet can give you some insight into what lines could mean. So that's a very interesting thing. We have this lake, we have this water, we have this darkness. Suicide could be happening. It could be there in the background as a potential. Chantal asks, could the mirror, when comparing to a lake, be a metaphor? Of course. And the metaphor is used to bring out the fact that the woman is trying to find her true self in this reflection of her, but all she will see is the aging face. So if you focus only on your physical beauty, when you get old, you're gonna get depressed because that's all you see yourself as. What poems could we compare this to? In the exam, you'll have to compare two poems. What poems could we compare Mirror to?
Not to compare, to bring up a comparison, it's just a concern I also have. For that poem for me is a bit, there's an issue here when it comes to who the persona is. I've
Oh,
seen instances. I just said, let me just bring it up so that we can, I guess, make sure we're clear. Sometimes I see students, when a question comes up about, and mirror is given, or even when it's not, and they choose mirror, they tend to believe the lady is the, or the woman
speaker.
is the speaker. Or it's because it's, for instance, when you have questions like suffering, and I think there's a recent one of the past paper questions,
Yes,
they
yes,
asked about suffering,
yes.
and I remember a student responded, she chose the mirror, and the speaker for her is the woman, and she was presenting the woman as suffering because she's not able to accept her age and her loss of beauty and what have you. But I'm saying, but the woman is not the speaker, it's the mirror that's the speaker, and the mirror wasn't suffering.
True.
So I don't know if we need to be careful with that poem,
We
because so
definitely
much about it is about the woman, and it would seem that she's she's obviously the subject, but the speaker or the persona is the mirror.
would.
So we have to be careful how we use that poem.
As Tessa mentioned, be careful how you use the word speaker. The woman is not speaking in this poem. I wrote an essay in a video 1 or 2 days ago where I compared Mirror to Once Upon a Time, I think. And Wilton just mentioned Mirror and Once Upon a Time being a pair. And I had to be careful not to use the word speaker when referring to Mirror. I use the word persona. She is a persona because she's an important character in the poem, but she's not the speaker. So when you're talking about the speaker says, the speaker does, know who the speaker is.